Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us tonight for the Sheboygan County Economic Development Corporation 8th Annual Meeting. I'm Dave Aldag, Chair of the SCEDC Board of Directors.
And I'm Gary Dolmas, past Chair of the Board. And tonight, we're going to share some updates with you about our economy.
Tonight, we're going to have some fun. We're going to announce something special, something proactive. We'll award our Economic Driver of the Year award to a well-deserving person. We'll do this all tonight in this beautiful facility, Blue Harbor. Thank you, Dave Sanderson, for hosting our event.
You know, Dave, I remember in 2001, we began talking about this very facility in which we're now standing. It was a long time ago. Heck, I was in my 40s.
I was 6.
Thank you. George Bush Jr. was president, and Jim Schramm was Sheboygan's mayor. This very land was nothing but an old, contaminated coal depot filled with weeds and gravel paths. I remember driving it with Great Wolf developers. I also remember very clearly what people told me. They said, we're living in a pipe dream if we thought we could turn this into a tourist destination and a gem for the county. And Dave, I also remember what is most important.
What was that, Gary?
I'll tell you.
I knew you would.
You know what? We did it. We did it. With a cooperative effort between the public sector and the private sector, we were able to give the city $500,000 to get it started. And the city stepped up and built the conference center, the very building and piece of property we're in right now. And Blue Harbor became a reality, and the peninsula started developing. But Dave, we didn't quit. Dreams can become reality, but you have to dream. Tonight, we're going to share with you our dream.
Gary, you said it. If it was easy, it would already be done. The SCC's work wouldn't be possible without support from so many incredible people. Can I have our executive committee stand and be recognized, and please stay standing? I'd like to thank these people for their guidance and decisions. They've made our organization stronger with their input. Next, can I have our board of directors stand and be recognized? These people give us their time, and they also invest monetarily in our organization. And there's no way that we could do what we do without their input and their support. I wanted to say thank you to our executive committee and our board. We're humbled by your support.
Well, let's get the show going, Dave. Enough of Laurel and Hardy. I'm honored to introduce, maybe we'll see. He's getting ready.
Do we need blankets?
Maybe introduce our MC, my friend, Pastor Jerome Smith from Greater Praise in Milwaukee. I have a question. Can I get a huge amen?
Amen.
Let's get it started in here.
And the bass keeps running and running and running and running and running and running.
But I thought y'all came to have some fun. Anybody come to have some fun? Come on, Mike Shaw, play that for me again. If you came to have some fun, put your hands
We
in
got
the
5
air.
minutes for us to
Because we
disconnect.
came to get it started up in here.
Can
somebody say up in here?
So and break away from tradition.
All right.
Girl is pulling me down. You wouldn't believe how we wow.
Amen. All right. First of all, let me thank you all again for the opportunity to be here tonight. I don't count it no privilege or no honor or anything of that nature. I count it that God has allowed us to be here once more time and again. Amen? Sometimes we take things for granted. I thank you guys. But I want you to know something. We couldn't be here tonight without some very special organizations. And I believe tonight we have with us Bank First National, Sheboygan Auto, Wisconsin Bank and Trust, Two Men in a Truck. I'm going to mess this up. Cautious Construction. Can we say QC? I want to get it right. QC. QC in the house. All right, so let's give these organizations a great big round of applause. Amen. Of course, it wouldn't be proper to have a pastor MC if we didn't have a word of prayer to start this off. Amen. Just bow your heads with me for a word of prayer. Father God, we thank you. We come unto you as humble as we know how, Lord, thanking you for just being you and allowing us to see this day that wasn't promised, oh God. We thank you for this event, oh God. We thank you for the Sheboygan County Economic Development Corporation and all the great organizations that make up this great county. We ask that you be the invited guest here, oh God. Lead us, guide us, and direct us. Give us what to say, how to say it, and when to say it. Give us what to do, how to do it, and when to do it. And Lord, we'll give it back to you in praise, glory, and in honor. And in Jesus' name, and the people said, amen. Amen. All right. First, we're going to start talking about something that's near and dear and close to all of our hearts, and that is workforce. All right? I'm going to ask you guys a question. Don't nobody answer me. Just want to ask you a quick question here. Did you know that the unemployment rate among African Americans is nearly 20%? But right here in Sheboygan County, the rate is at 2.7%. Give yourselves a hand. The average household income is just over $26,000 or $12.53 per hour. That's half of what's going on over here in Sheboygan County. By a show of hands, don't y'all do that. Don't y'all lift y'all hands up. Don't y'all do that. It's going to be bad for you. This is what I want you to do. How many HR people in the room? I want y'all to answer this question in your mind. But before you even lie to yourself, remember, God hears and sees what you're thinking as well as what you're saying. Amen? Now let me ask you this. How many of you have jobs with starting wages over $13 per hour? Hold that thought. I think that's just about everybody in this dang on room. Huh. Interesting. Well, now that you got that in your head, how many of y'all got multiple positions that are currently open and seem to have a hard time filling? Now, right about now, you would be having your hands up and you'd be standing up and I'd pick on somebody. But I'm going to be nice tonight. Amen? So I apologize for what I'm about to do. And I don't apologize often. But this is what I want to do. Now that you got that answer in your head, how many times have you as an HR person or your HR staff been to Milwaukee or other areas of poverty to recruit workers? When was the last time your company talked about recruiting efforts and going down to areas and undergoing stress in places like Milwaukee or Puerto Rico? Y'all know there's some trouble going on in Puerto Rico, right? They ain't got no running water, all that good stuff. Y'all got this in your head, right? Don't get quiet on me. I need you to work with me. Tom? All right. You here? You got the door for me? We got you, Pastor. All right. Now that you got this, I want you to answer this question. Real simple. Are you doing this all the time? Are you going to these areas and doing recruiting efforts? Are you doing this some of the time? Are you doing this next to never? Or are you never doing it? Think about that. I want to get this straight. Just for the record, remember, he sees. Your company need workers. Your company is paying more than what most people down here on I-43 down the road is making. You are aware that 3 million Americans, somebody say Americans, not random people, but Americans, are without power and running water. You're aware of that, right? Remember, God is listening. So here's the question. Where was your HR recruitment team today? Let me give you a hot second just to think about that. Where were your team today? Were they sitting in the office? Where should they be tomorrow? Would you say that your company is doing all it can do to recruit workers? Do you think your company have another gear it could use to reach when recruiting? Think about it for a second. Think about that. I want to do a basic math test. How many people here play spades? I taught Scott how to play spades. I beat him so bad he learned. I play spades. Normally we play spades, we play with partners. Amen? And board is 4. That's the lowest you can go. But when I play spades, if I got 2 and my partner got 2, we cannot go for 4. So if I got 2 and Scott got 2, we're going for 5. Amen? And chances are we're not going to get set. I heard Constance say 6. I'm not her partner. So watch this. All these firms out here pay well and can't find workers. Interesting. Millions of people are looking for work. Millions are looking for work. But if you put these two problems together, does that sound like something that is a complicated idea? We can do this. That's what the Joseph Project is all about. Matching problems with solutions. And while we love being a part of this, we can't take all the credit. Because without the Sheboygan County, 50 individuals out of Milwaukee wouldn't have family supporting jobs today. Give yourselves a hand. But the Joseph Project is only one modest attempt at a very large issue that's surrounding your county. Let's hear how the Sheboygan Economic Development Corporation is doing their part to solve this challenge. Tonight we have with us Ms. Sarah Spicer, the Workforce Development Specialist, and Dustin from IQ Print Media. Come on and give them a hand.
Thank you very much, Pastor Smith, and good evening, everyone. Digital marketing has become a powerful part of the Someplace Better campaign. Our website and social media channels are oftentimes a prospective employee's introduction to Sheboygan County and the opportunities we have to offer. Someplace Better is a catalyst to a better life. It has helped thousands of people turn their lives around by finding better employment, better schools, and better communities. And it all starts with someplacebetter.org. Our campaign objectives are to provide a centralized resource for all Sheboygan County job openings, to promote county jobs and employers within Wisconsin and across targeted areas in the U.S. Those areas do include Puerto Rico, Pastor Smith, inner city poverty-stricken areas in Milwaukee, Chicago. So yes, we are targeting those areas. And selling the Sheboygan County quality of life. There are some key results that I'd like to share with you. We've reached 1.5 million people. We've had 27,000 job searches, and we've had 1,000 resume submissions. And 60% of all this traffic is coming from outside Sheboygan County, so we're reaching out. Someplace Better is a recruiting partnership. It's here to help you support and diversify your recruiting efforts. So if you can't find time to send your recruiting team down to inner city Milwaukee, give the SCEDC a call. We can help you with that. We've developed numerous tools that can be leveraged to reach beyond Sheboygan County. Some of these tools include a job search function, featured job postings, job fair events, job fair partnerships, resume intake, and featured company articles. We take all of this content and we deliver it to the public with a diverse approach. We use Google paid search, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Craigslist to get your message where it's needed most. When we're delivering this message, we're taking into account things like location, age and gender, education, and income. However, Someplace Better can be more. In order to grow, we need your help. The world needs to know how great Sheboygan County is, and we need you to help deliver that message. Send us your job postings, your company articles, your milestones, and your success stories. Once you share your message with us, we will make sure to share it with the world. I'd like to turn it over to Sarah.
We have a short video we want to show you. Mary. Mary has the hardest job tonight. She's maneuvering everybody's PowerPoints, so.
Someplace Better is a comprehensive, flexible workforce attraction campaign in Sheboygan County. The program provides social media marketing, resume intake, job fair organization, and job seeker analytics. 5 entry-level job fairs brought in 889 job seekers for 165 jobs in a community with a sub 3% unemployment rate. Employers use the efficient, effective, and solution-oriented Someplace Better campaign to help market their available jobs and promote Sheboygan County's suitability as a new home.
Someplace Better isn't just a website. Someplace Better is a campaign that we started with a great partner, the Chamber of Sheboygan County. I'd like to recognize a few people from the Chamber here tonight because we couldn't really do this without them. Partnerships are important across the board in every community, and here in Sheboygan, we've done an amazing job of partnering with people within our community. So I'd like to recognize Sean, Betsy, Alice, and Tammy. If you could stand, please. We look forward to many years of partnering with them. Someplace Better is a tool that's created for companies to attract workforce. Someplace Better is changing and growing with our community. It never stays still. You need to continually look at our website, look at the print material, and determine if it's something that you can use today, because tomorrow it might be different. And we're always taking everybody's advice, recommendations. It stays alive with our community and everything that we're doing within it. So I'm not a statistics person. You'll hear Dane talk later. I know all of you have heard him before. So what I'm not going to talk to you tonight about is the 2.7% unemployment rate we have in Sheboygan. I'm not going to talk to you about the 3,000 jobs we continue to have. All of you know these numbers. We go over them repeatedly. What I want to talk to you tonight about is Donald, Tamika, Willie, and David. These are all people who have gone through the Joseph Project, a project Pastor Smith has been leading. Donald and David are twins, twin brothers. They're amazing people if you've ever met them. Quite entertaining. They work at NEMAC. They started there in 2016. We're taking the vans that you saw on the screen just recently for $10 a day. They decided they wanted to be a part of this community to the point that they decided to live in a hotel for months until they found proper living arrangements, because they wanted to be near the company, near the people, near this community. So Someplace Better isn't just a website. It's not just print material. We are changing lives. These are the faces of Someplace Better. They are not numbers, and we can't put them into numbers. So what I'm not going to talk to you about tonight is the average salary here within manufacturing being $40,000 a year. Because again, I don't like numbers. But what I am going to talk to you about is Anthony, Jamira, Carlos, and Anita. These are students I've been working with the EDC at Vincent High School in Milwaukee. It's a 16-day course stretched out over the course of the year, learning interview skills, financial readiness, conflict resolution, and more. Many of our companies that are in this room have been involved with that program. It's connecting students with jobs after graduation that also offer tuition reimbursement. Education is still our #1 message when it comes to talking with these students, but there's a different way to go about it. Most of our companies offer 80 to 100% of tuition reimbursement, so these students can earn a paycheck, start a savings account, and get their tuition paid for. Could you imagine no school debt? I know some of you have kids in college right now. I'm not going to talk to you about the 1,000 employees that we need every year to replace the people retiring here in Sheboygan County. But I'm going to talk to you about Olivia, Jennifer, Michael, and Gabe. These are students in Sheboygan County schools that are registered for the co-op program, a program in which the SCEDC was able to secure a grant to help fund and expand this program. Again, working with many of your companies and people in this room, we have been able to change lives through these 3 programs and more. So when you are making decisions within your organization and within your company, remember, these are not numbers. These are people. We're going to cover a lot of numbers today, but what you need are people. And what I just said for you tonight, we have the people. So the stories that we give today will make tomorrow exactly what we need it to be. If we as business leaders fail to tell our story, we will just become another statistic. Thank you. Pastor Smith?
Come on and give her a hand. See, over in Sheboygan County, I found out that dreams become visions, and visions really do become reality. Amen? Sarah, the work you are performing is amazing. And I want every company here tonight to know that you are a great person. Amen? And that they are working with an organization that's second to none. Next, we're going to go way over there. And we're going to talk to Dane Chekoletsky, the director. Amen? We're going to go back Get back out of the workforce and take a look at an overall picture. Dane, tell me something. How is Sheboygan County doing? It's doing pretty good. It's doing well, right?
Well, we'll talk about that.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Dane Chekalinsky, people.
Thank you. Well, thank you. Economic development simply doesn't happen. The SCEDC has been blessed with an absolute wonderful team. Can I have everyone join me in thanking our SCED staff of Jim, Sarah, and Mary for the contributions they make to our community. A core part of what this team does is sell Sheboygan County to developers. Before a networking meeting, there's one thing I absolutely love to do, and that's preload one image, and that's the image on your screen. This image says it all. Any notion that Sheboygan County is a backwater or just another ordinary Midwest community is instantly gone. Real estate developers' guard is down, and I can begin to have an engaging conversation with an attentive listener. We talk about jobs. Since 2010, Sheboygan County has added jobs like clockwork. Even our gross domestic product has again outpaced state and national growth. Please welcome me in giving ourselves a round of applause because it is you in this room that made that happen. A key component, and still key component, is the lack of housing. In 2014, I can remember the moment when our team realized that the lack of multifamily was an issue. We didn't just jump into calling developers. That would have been premature. Instead, the SCEDC is not going to ask someone to invest millions of dollars without first paying them the compliment of doing our homework. We stick to a simple 5-step process. And what we do is no secret, and it's only common sense. First, we listen to the concerns of our companies. We find the common issues. We study those issues. We identify solutions, and then we simply pick up the phone and start calling. Today, as a result of that simple 5-step process, nearly 1,000 apartments have been proposed or built since 2014. We repeated that process with retail. After studying the issue, we found that the best location for a mid-big box retail development was in the town of Sheboygan. And lucky for us, the town shared the vision. After early interest, we're anxiously waiting to see what might just pop. Energy and momentum builds. Due to the success in multifamily housing in downtown Sheboygan, I think we inadvertently reignited the condo market. Again, the 5 steps. Today, we soon hope that the first urban condo project in nearly a decade will be announced. So far, nearly every project has required municipal partnerships. That is where the SCEDC is special. We're mixing problems and solutions, public willingness and private investment, fused at the right time and place to make things happen. In fact, just this Monday, just 4 days ago, a handful of local business leaders presented an adventurous concept for one small community. Prior to this year, Random Lake had dug just one basement since the recession. That shared vision they shared was to develop over 200 housing units over the next several years, taking the village from 1 to hundreds. This is economic development at its finest, pushing the limits of what we feel is possible through joint ownership. 2017 was an absolute incredible year of investments, especially by municipalities in the areas of their business parks. Sheboygan Falls, Plymouth, Cedar Grove, Ootsburg, and Sheboygan have all taken proactive steps to provide shovel-ready sites for businesses, some investing millions in infrastructure. Those public dollars weren't invested because they feel tomorrow is going to be worse than today. For the businesses leaders in this room, please join me in giving a wonderful round of applause to our local municipal governments, the unsung heroes of economic development. Anyone who knows the SCEDC team knows I'm the numbers guy. I could end this speech here. Mission accomplished. But anyone who knows the SCEDC knows that we are not afraid to accept the challenges of the day. So this is our job situation, and let's see how that compares to pre-recession. Again, we see that beautiful climb out of the recession. But what do you notice? We are down from our peak employment from 2007. Sheboygan County, can you believe this? We have never fully recovered. But how can our unemployment rate be so low in decades and difficult finding employees? Let's take a look at that other situation. Let's take a look at population. We have flatlined. Some of us in this room traveled to another Midwest state just a few months ago to talk to a CEO of an area company. He asked a couple simple questions, and I'm paraphrasing. He asked, if I can't find workers now and your community is not growing, why would I continue to do business there? I'll be honest with you and level with all of you in the room. I didn't have a good answer. But what about manufacturing, the cornerstone of our economy? Employment in manufacturing peaked in 2000 in this county. During the last two recessions, we have never came back from. Let's take a look at the number of manufacturing firms in Sheboygan County. It's almost too hard to believe, with thousands of jobs available. But then we remember Pentair, IAC, Dairy Farmers of America. In good economic times or bad, the trend remains the same. Sheboygan County is not escaping the geopolitical climate. This graph brings up three instant thoughts. First, can Sheboygan County continue the status quo and continue to sustain the communities that we've all come to love? Second, where is the new generation of firms, and how can we best hold on to the ones that we have? And third, how much more I'm impressed, absolutely impressed with the growth of many of our local firms despite these trends. It takes true leadership to buck what's happening. I'm not here to preach doom and gloom, quite the contrary. Look at what the people in this room have accomplished since 2010. Companies and education banded together to create Inspire Sheboygan County and tech centers at LTC and our local high schools to fill the industrial jobs that are indeed growing. I recall the conversation around Red Raider. The goal of the firms and schools wasn't to create a simple tech center. The goal was to create a showpiece, to invite students in. You know, with a 60% increase in classes in the first year, I would say it worked. This is when it comes to our major announcement tonight. The simple fact remains, the presence of jobs alone is no longer enough to attract people anymore. Just like the CEO asked me, is your community growing? The same and almost the identical question is being asked of each and every one of you when you recruit talent. But what they're really asking is, what are the prospects for my professional growth in the future? Are there professional opportunities for my spouse and children? Will the house I buy retain its value? And am I picking a winning horse? Job seekers are telling us what they want: optimism and hope. How will the recruitment picture change when we provide marketers, engineers, programmers, and alike a picture of a world-class amenity that at a snap at a finger opens the door for a deeper conversation? How will the recruitment picture change when, just like Red Raider, we provide a showpiece, something that when candidates visit the area, they stop and say they have that in a small, family-friendly, Midwestern community? This is why we have our guest speaker, Jennifer Vey from Baltimore. How can we snowball the energy that has been created in the past few years to capitalize on the changes in the global economy and attract the world's best and brightest? How can we shape our ecosystem that will get our most gifted students to think twice about leaving? How can Sheboygan County build a best-in-class talent magnet? Tonight, we share with you our vision, the creation of an innovation community. After we reveal our 2017 economic driver, Jennifer will share with you what an innovation community is and how they work. We will share how companies, startups, education, and municipalities work together to create fertile ground for new ideas and innovation. Jennifer is here tonight because she knows the next place in the United States to build an innovation community is Sheboygan County, Wisconsin. Thank you.
Sheboygan County. This place is special, y'all, but it takes leadership. Leadership on different levels, including examples to follow. Which brings me to my next point. It is my pleasure to introduce last year's economic driver winner, Johnsonville Sausage, and member of the Joseph Project family, to say a few words and introduce this year's winner. Give a thunderous round of applause for Mr. Bob Warner.
Actually, Johnsonville's not here tonight, so you're stuck with me, which I'm vice chair of the SCEDC, so I'm not the Sausage King. But good evening. Tonight's not only about bringing you up to date on all the significant things the Sheboygan County Economic Development Corporation has achieved or is working on, but also to honor an individual and or company with our highest honor, the Economic Driver of the Year Award. With all the amazing things that have been happening with business expansions and overall growth this past year, there are so many dedicated people and companies to choose from that help make Sheboygan County the great place it is to live, to work, and to play. This award has no nomination process. There are no specific criteria or guidelines other than who best exhibits solid investment in Sheboygan County, who do others want to strive to be like. The award's chosen by our executive committee, and not even our board of directors know who the recipient is. The honoree will be joining a prestigious group of our past award winners. You've seen the list of the ones we've had since 2010, which was the first year we made the award. The people and companies listed up here have contributed significantly to our local economy. Now it's time to introduce to you the 2017 Economic Driver of the Year. This year's recipient has spent a lifetime not only building a successful company, but demonstrating what it's like to be an integral part of the community where he lives and works. By giving back into that community his constant personal time and commitment and investment. He worked tirelessly to add needed new local businesses. As he saw some of the younger generation moving away, he even developed land and added new housing units as there was a shortage of them. He did all of this to help make his beloved community the great place that it is today. Let us show you a short video to introduce you to this year's winner.
Sheboygan County, 500 square miles of pristine lakes, rivers, forests, and farmland, and home to a company whose values, beliefs, and culture have helped shape this small town into one of the area's fastest growing communities.
In 1943, my dad started the business with 6 partners. Today we have 150 employees. Our area is so much bigger. We're all the way from Kenosha to Manitowoc.
In 1968, Gordy Veldboom returned to Oostburg from St. Paul-based Control Data Systems to join the family business. A business which eventually, under Gordy's watch, grew to over 150 employees and a portfolio of over 15 subdivisions and 700 residential and commercial developments. Today, they're one of the largest poured wall and masonry contractors in Wisconsin.
We started out with a few rickety old trucks and trailers and carrying forms on the back of trailers, wheelbarrows for moving the concrete, and now we have boom trucks and conveyors, dump trucks.
The way things were in 1990 when I started compared to the way things are now are worlds apart.
From a man whose employees have always considered him much more of a father than they do a boss, Gordy's steadfast love for his church, his family, and community have fueled a rather unusual mix of economic development. The kind of development you get from pure grit needed to build world-class residential, retail, and industrial buildings in a small community.
Yeah, Oostburg, when my dad was here, was farmland. Now it's just built up. The industrial park is just a tremendous help. And downtown area is developed, which I think is just a great combination.
You know, I think this is a company that's well placed for the challenges that are coming in construction and in business, you know, in general. They've got good people in place. I think they've got a business plan that they know is successful. They're not afraid to try new things and keep up with the new technologies and the new equipment.
So it should come as no surprise that from a family-owned business whose reputation for pouring solid walkways and firm foundations has in 30 years lovingly connected its people and driven its local economy. A man whose passion for concrete makes perfect sense in times that call for economic strength and stability.
I think our success comes probably from a work ethic of our employees. Got just fantastic employees. Been surrounded with just a great group of people.
Oostburg, Wisconsin. When you hear the name, it's expected that the name Gordy Veldboom will eventually become part of the conversation. A man whose love for community has always fueled the courage and tenacity to roll up his sleeves, pick up the phone, and simply get things done. A man whose actions make this growing village and Sheboygan County someplace better.
Are you a Badgers fan?
I'm a Badger fan, yes I am. And wait till you see my office.
Ladies and gentlemen, I introduce to you our 2017 Economic Driver of the Year, Gordon Veldboom. Gordon, can you come up? Congratulations. We want to thank you and honor you with this great award.
Thank you very much. It's really appreciated.
Let me just, let's, the photo here. Well, why don't you stand next to me here? And but I want to say just a few more words.
Trying to hide.
I know. I've had the privilege of knowing Gordy for over 30 years, both in business and as a friend. He's honest, generous, sincere, and always willing to help his church, community, and schools. He's one of the few people that I can still do a deal with just a handshake. And there aren't many people left out there like that. He's also very humble. So I'm going to share a few of the things he's done in Oostburg, besides Oostburg Concrete, with its over 150 employees, that probably wouldn't be there without him. His first venture was buying an old canning company. He turned it into a warehousing and business place. Then he took the oldest house in town, replaced it with an attractive office building, which originally housed a medical group and now has an insurance company, a title company, tax consultant, and a lawyer in it. He took an old school that stood empty and replaced it with a beautiful mall housing a grocery store, laundromat, church, physical therapist, and a Subway shop. Gotta have a Subway shop. The Ford Garage and Knotty Pine Restaurant were taken down. Now Oostburg has a clinic and a pharmacy, plus office space for a financial group, surveyor, computer programmer, plus a new restaurant, which I enjoy coming to for breakfast on the weekend. He built an industrial strip mall adjacent to Oostburg Concrete to add additional businesses to the community, and he's developed hundreds of building lots, along with 120 condos, many single-family homes, multiple apartment buildings, and his dream for years, an assisted living facility. All of this in Oostburg. He was a big part of providing a new gym for Oostburg Christian School and a new football field and track for Oostburg High School. The list goes on and on. He's touched the lives of so many. Like the trademark of Oshkosh B'gosh, he's the genuine article. Maybe his nickname should be Oostburg B'gosh. On behalf of the Board of Directors, we're honored to have you, Gordy, as our Economic Driver of the Year.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
You want to take this and that? Well, thank you, Bob, and thank you, Sheboygan Concrete, Sheboygan SCEDC. This is all very humbling for me, and it's a great, great honor, and I appreciate it. And it certainly has taken me out of my comfort zone, I'll tell you that. I'm not naive enough to think that this is all about me or just about me. There are many, many people that should be up here on this platform with me right now. And many of you people are here tonight, so thank you. God has blessed me greatly. Really, without his correction and direction, tonight would probably be meaningless because I probably wouldn't be here. So I've been blessed with a great family, with family and friends, partners and associates, of which we're very thankful for. I'd like to thank my wife, who was my high school sweetheart, and now as my wife of 53 years. She has been my She has been my soulmate and my helpmate for all these years. And just for a side note, she used to work with us at Oostburg Concrete. And I think she has sold more condos, lots, and residences in Oostburg, Cedar Grove, Random Lake, Hingham, and Gibbsville all together. She gets a +10. We have 5 children. They are all active in the business at Oostburg Concrete, and they also are all very active in community and really county activities, of which we're very proud of. And we're just so happy that they have all chosen to choose Oostburg and Sheboygan County to raise their families, because it is the best county in the world, I think. So we do have 16 grandchildren and 12 great-grandchildren, and all living around Oostburg, and so we feel that we have our own little fan club right here in Oostburg. We have been surrounded by great people to work with in the workplace at Oostburg Concrete. We appreciate every employee we have, and we consider them to be part of our family. We have appreciated a network of businesses that we work with at the county level. We appreciate our contractors, our associations, bankers, accountants, attorneys, all seem to have the same vision that we have, and that's just to be a little bit better each day. And I'd just like to have a special thank you to Sheboygan Economic Development Corporation and to its staff and board and members. Dan, Sarah, Jim, and Mary, you have just done a fabulous job, and we're so proud of you. It's just wonderful to work with you guys and get questions answered immediately. And so I'm very proud of you guys. Just an outstanding job. It is a great organization that is creating and promoting a positive business environment in our county area, and we can feel it. And I think it's one of the hardest working and best working associations that we have in this state of Wisconsin. I was a member of this organization for many years, and I learned to admire and respect every single member. When I started, when I was asked to be on it, I thought it was a little hesitant because I thought it was going to be more geared towards Sheboygan, but I soon learned it isn't. It's just a great membership, and I thank all you guys that serve as members for just the influence you have in the job you're doing. It's just a great job. And finally, I just want to thank all of you for attending tonight's program and showing your interest in this event. It is a great story, and thank you very much.
My sincere congratulations to Gordy. You show us all what a lifetime of achievements can bring. Building a community can sometimes take many forms. One person's vision and passion over decades, maybe even a new idea, an idea that recognizes modern trends and having the tenacity to pursue it. You are worthy of all of the accolades. It's my pleasure tonight to introduce Jennifer Vey from the Brookings Institute. Jennifer knows a few things about placemaking. For example, we know when a neighborhood looks good, yards are cut, streets are without cracks, and good people want to move there. I was looking at a place out in Sheboygan. We know when windows are broken, weeds sprout through the rocks. Those who can afford to choose where they want to live, they just keep on going down 43. You all need to pay attention to Jennifer. She has some principles on how Sheboygan County can go from becoming just another flyover community in the Midwest into destinations for entrepreneurs, innovators, and thinkers. How to use this place to bring out the best in the talent that you've already hired. How to use this place to build the excitement and energy necessary to turn 4 to 5 after-school people sitting in this room, 4 to 5 high school students in your public schools, or 4 to 5 people riding on the Joseph Project vans into the next Gordy, Ralph Stayers, or Herb Kohler of tomorrow. All companies have humble beginnings. An idea for a company could start with a conversation around a dinner table. An idea for the company could start a single person observing the need for a service. An idea for a company can start with an employee noticing the components your firm purchased are awful and thinking, I can do better than this. And that is what tonight is all about. How are we going to turn more ideas into reality? Amen. Without further ado, give a hand to Ms. Jennifer Vey.
Thanks so much, Pastor, for that warm introduction, and thank you so much to the Sheboygan County Economic Development Corporation for having me here tonight. It's a great pleasure to be here, and I've gotten to see a small taste of what you have to offer here. And what I'm really going to try to do is to put the ambitions of Sheboygan into a national context based on the work that myself and my team at Brookings have really been focused on over the past couple of years. If you want to bring up the presentation. So again, I am the senior fellow at Brookings, and I'm also the co-director of the BASS Initiative on Innovation and Placemaking. And it is that work around the nexus between innovation and placemaking that I'm really going to focus on in my comments tonight. Next slide. So what I want to really talk about is particularly the innovation economy and where we are today and where, in part, we're trying to see where the puck is moving in the future. So I think it goes without saying that we are in a global economy that's rapidly changing, and it's increasingly powered by innovation in all forms, in terms of innovation, in terms of products, new products for the market, new processes to get things done. Next slide. And so when we think about the innovation economy, we really need to think about the innovation economy in the context in the context of real places and what it means for places like Sheboygan when they think about their own economic development strategy. And economic development for a long time is really focused on what we call the Starbucks, Stadia, and stealing business strategy. And what that basically means is for quite a long time, many places when they're looking at their economy and they're saying, you know, how do we grow jobs? How do we bring people into our economy? They've tended to focus on the consumer economy, the big, go back a little bit, the big ticket items like stadia and convention centers, or just stealing businesses from other places. And certainly all these things can be important in an economic development context. We want places like Starbucks and other places that offer a consumer experience. We often need big ticket type of things like stadia, like convention centers, like resorts like we're in now. And at times, even attracting businesses from other communities is appropriate. But what we also know is, while these things can be important for an economy, they're not necessarily all the silver bullet strategies that they're made out to be. Rather, most of the growth that we see comes from new and existing businesses. Those are the places that are producing jobs. Next slide. So when we think about where our job producers are, we also need to think about where we're moving in the future in terms of the innovation economy. So this happens to be a slide based on some research that was done by McKinsey that's looking forward to say, what are the platform technologies that are really going to be driving our economy in the future? And it's those platform technologies that are infusing every other kind of business and that will continue to drive productivity in the years to come and will be a major percentage of our global GDP. So that includes things like automation. Certainly for many of you who are in the manufacturing sector, you know what that means for your business. It's the Internet of Things. It's 3D printing. It's new forms of energy. And these are exactly the kind of technologies that are important for any given business. But for a community, you need to be thinking about what do these technologies mean for the businesses that are in my city, in my town, and what does this mean for how we're going to build our economy moving forward? How can we get ahead of the curve to start focusing on building an innovation economy in your community? Next slide. So why does innovation really matter, right? Well, we know it matters certainly because it can improve our lives, it can improve our businesses, it can help us be more productive, and it can improve our health and well-being and quality of life. But we also know that the innovation economy particularly is important because of its job generation capacity. And if you could click one more. So, for example, research has shown that for each new high-tech job in a metropolitan area, 5 additional local jobs are created in addition. So these are the kind of jobs that have a strong multiplier effect. And that's why when I noted something like the Starbucks of the economy, Starbucks are wonderful things, but they're not what drives the economy. They're derivative of the other kind of businesses that are growing in your community. And at the same time, these are producing jobs across a range of workers. So research that had been done by a former colleague of mine at Brookings actually found that half of all STEM jobs are available to workers who don't have a 4-year college degree. And this is an interesting statistic because oftentimes I think we think of jobs in the innovation economy as being for those who have the master's degree, who have the PhD. They're for other people in the economy. But the fact of the matter is, not only does the innovation economy produce a lot of jobs in the innovation economy and beyond that economy, but it's also providing jobs for people across a range of educational attainment levels, and it also provides very good paying jobs. Next slide, please. So that sort of sets the platform for the economy as we know it and where we see the economy growing in a global sense. But what we've really been doing in our work is to try to bring that kind of macro perspective down to the ground, to really start to understand, well, what does it take to really grow a strong innovation ecosystem in an actual community? And so we've been focusing on what we're kind of referring to as the new urban paradigm that's really around where innovation, strong quality of places, and economic inclusion are really tightly bound. They're wrapped up in each other. And it's by bringing these three things together that we think communities can really increase and build upon their existing assets. Next slide. So the reason why we're focused on this nexus between place, between innovation and inclusion is in large part because of trends in the innovation economy. So in the first place, the innovation economy today and innovation processes increasingly demand more collaboration than they had in the past. So if you look at where the innovation economy had been growing from, say, the mid part of the last century, and in the decades further, the model was really a pretty hyper-suburban model where companies wanted to keep their secret secret. This was in large part because of a lot of the innovation that was happening came in the post-World War II decade and focused on large government type research. At the same time, the patterns in our spatial geography were such that we were a suburbanizing nation. And so the innovation economy also reflected those patterns. So the model was to have the economy that was growing up in suburban areas where people drove to their suburban parking lot, they got out of their car, didn't do a whole lot of collaborating throughout the course of the day, got back in, drove home at the end of the day. But what we know about the innovation economy today is that it's far more open than it was in the past, and it demands then far more collaboration than it had in the past. So this means that companies want to be near other companies. They want to be near the startup community. They may want to be near anchor institutions, whether it's a research institution of some sort or a hospital system. They want to be able to interact with each other in new ways. Next slide, please. And so what that means is we're actually seeing companies in markets throughout the country and in other countries as well, actually moving to be near the firms and talented people. This just happens to be one example, the Marriott Corporation, which had been in the suburban DC area and actually moved to downtown Bethesda. But you can look at markets all over the country. In my hometown of Baltimore, Pandora moved from the suburbs into the downtown area. You can look at Atlanta, Boston, all over the country. Corporations, both big and small, have been rethinking the geography of where they want to be and where they need to be. Next slide. So at the same time, the innovation economy itself is shifting in terms of its own demands, its own market demands. People are demanding great places to be able to live, work, and play. And so this is important from a firm perspective because they want to be attentive to their workers and the kind of environments that their workers want to be in. And I think that's something, certainly from my brief time here in Sheboygan, this is something that clearly you all understand and have been very focused on over the last several years. Next slide. So what all this means, these changes in the innovation economy, the new demands of people for high quality places, is actually starting to shift the scale at which we think about place. So if you think about the supply chain tends to be, a big area, 100 miles or more. When we think about labor pooling and where labor is coming from, it's at a smaller geography. It's usually at a metropolitan kind of geography or a multi-county geography that's somewhere in the ballpark of about 40 miles. And in fact, that's how we define metropolitan areas, of how people commute around an area. But when we think about the knowledge economy and knowledge sharing, it demands much closer proximity. So what all this means, next slide, is that the hyper-local is becoming far more valued than it had been in the past. And so what we're starting to see happen is in various areas where you're starting to see the innovation economy shift and change in terms of its spatial geography. And so we're seeing it happen in many different ways. And if you have sort of an expansive definition of what the innovation economy is, we're seeing it happen in what we're referring to as innovation districts, where you have innovative firms coming together in high quality places. You're seeing it even in arts and design and other types of aspects of the innovation economy that are starting to agglomerate or concentrate in small geographic areas in new ways. And you're seeing it even in things like food markets, where the food systems have changed and people's demand for more localized food and for more localized food experiences is also starting to agglomerate, which also opens up a lot of new opportunities for entrepreneurship. Next slide. So what I want to focus on a little bit particularly is what we're referring to as innovation districts. But really, these patterns affect, whether it's an innovation district, which is really focused more on the innovation economy, or whether it's a market hub, or even a more arts and creative district, the patterns are somewhat similar. And it comes back to this agglomeration of different kinds of activity. And we've always seen those agglomeration effects, certainly when it comes to downtowns or central business districts. From really the beginning of cities, the beginning of time, this is where you've seen your economic activity. But with these changing patterns, the shifts in innovation and the new demands of people, we're seeing this play out in different types of areas. So we focused a lot of our work over the last couple of years on this concept around an innovation district. And how we and others have defined this is really a geographic area where you see anchor institutions of different sorts. And that can mean a major research institution. It could be a hospital. It could be a company. It could be a satellite of a company or an anchor institution. And where they're coming together and they're connecting with smaller firms, entrepreneurs, the startup community, and the support kind of systems like business incubators and accelerators, because they want to keep their finger on the pulse of what's happening. At the same time, these areas have tended to be physically compact, generally either walkable and or transit accessible, have the needed broadband that firms would want, and they offer a mix of uses and amenities, mixed use housing, commercial development, office, retail. Next slide.
The geography of innovation is shifting. To find the innovative economy 20 years ago, a worker needed to drive to a secluded research park, work in isolation, and keep ideas secret. Today, proximity is everything. Workers want to be in urban places that are walkable, bikeable, hyper-caffeinated, where they can bump into other workers and share ideas. Firms also want to be close to other firms, research labs, and universities in collaborative spaces so that smart ideas can be turned into smart products for the market. Innovation districts are this century's productive geography. They are both competitive places and cool spaces, and they will transform your city and metropolis.
So that's a video we put together a couple of years ago. That's actually my boss's voice that you hear. Does a pretty good job with the video. And so you may be looking at that too and saying, well, gosh, that looks, like a big urban environment. What does that really have to do with a smaller city and county like Sheboygan? But the fact of the matter is, these trends and patterns around the innovation economy and the innovation ecosystem, as well as the new demands of people for higher quality places, play out in all sorts of different economies. So whether you're a big place or a small place, what it really comes down to is understanding the trends and the patterns and really trying to understand what do they really mean for my community based on the assets that we have here. So if you could do one more click. So when we talk about the innovation economy or the innovation ecosystem, we really try to break it down into three different aspects. So I try to sort of frame, well, why is any of this happening, given the shifting spatial geography of innovation and putting it in kind of that macro trends frame. But now I want to take it down a little bit to, well, what do these districts actually look like? What's really happening in them? And so we really say that it comes down to three main things: your economic assets, your physical assets, and your networking assets. And it's where these three things come together that really build a strong innovation ecosystem. Next slide. Click again. And so these districts really bring this diversity of these kind of assets together into one destination. And so this is just a neat way to say, so what happens when you bring all these things together is that you're creating that kind of dynamic hub of activity. You're creating a place where ideas can be exchanged in different kind of places, where people are working, where they're testing new ideas, where they're working together, where they're being social, and where ideas can be exchanged, whether in a coffee shop or in a sort of dedicated space within a company or another type of area. But the point is that it's where all these things come together in physical space where we're generating this kind of buzz of activity. Next slide. So what does it mean when we talk about economic assets, physical assets, networking assets? So what I want to try to do is break that down a little bit to give you some idea of what these kind of assets are made up of. So I'm going to use sort of a series of a small area, a small district area to kind of show you how these things actually could come together in, albeit a cartoon version of a physical space. So economic assets can include everything from university or community college facilities and programs, company and corporate type facilities, firms, basically, accelerator kind of spaces, the kind of spaces that help support entrepreneurship in different ways. Incubators for the smaller kind of companies just to help them get started, or to be able to work in a co-working kind of space where they can be sharing things like expensive equipment, or even a copy machine for that matter. And then all the different kind of spaces for startups and scale-ups, and whether that means an accelerator space, an incubation hub, or other kind of spaces in the physical realm that really are supportive of entrepreneurial activities. Next slide. Physical assets include everything from a walkable street grid, right? We talk about quality places. That means places where people can actually get out and walk around without having to get in their car to do basic activities, and certainly where they can be out about and bumping into other people, whether, again, in spontaneous ways or in more formalized kind of settings. And it can also mean strong public transportation systems. Obviously, the kind of systems depends on the kind of place and the needs in those places, but the overriding point is you want to be able to create the kind of spaces that allow people to connect both within the spaces, whether on foot or whether by bus, but that also have good connectivity to other places. And that means other economic hubs in your own community, or it could mean being able to connect to other places in your region or even outside your region where you need to be forging those connections between firms or between research institutions or between entrepreneurs and corporations. Next slide. Physical assets also include the kind of amenities, just the kind of things that you've all been investing in here in Sheboygan. So these are things like parks and open spaces that are there for people to enjoy however they like, but also that have strong programming that actually are intentionally bringing people together in new ways. So this can be anything from concerts that bring a diversity of the community out, or health-related activities, or even activities that really support entrepreneurship in different ways, whether it can be outdoor activities where people can be showing off some of their new business ideas, for example. But the point is that you need to have those kind of public spaces that really bring a diversity of actors together in new ways, whether that's formal in terms of the kind of programming that happens, or just informally. Next slide. And then finally, and I think this is one that often gets overlooked, particularly in new development, is physical assets are also when you're repurposing the ground floors of buildings as public spaces in new ways. And I say that this is often a challenge for communities because often as people are building the new shiny new place, they often neglect to think about what it means on the first floor to be creating the kind of spaces that interact with the street, that interact with the public spaces, that interact and allow people to interact with the company or the anchor institution or whatever it is that's located right next door. And it also means creating the kind of transparency at that ground level so that people understand that there's something happening here. So that people can see in the windows and they can see other people. They can see people getting a cup of coffee, or maybe they can even see people in a lab or people actually at work innovating or exchanging ideas. So the public realm, we know are places like your public spaces and your parks, and it is the street grid, but it's important to really think about that ground floor as part of your urban realm as well. Next slide. And then finally, the networking assets. So this is a little bit squishier than the other two. I think people can sort of understand, you can see exactly what your economic assets may be, and you can see what those physical assets may be. But it's the networking assets that really help to pull it all together. And so these are the things that happen inside the buildings or outside in the public realm. So you may have an accelerator, building that you're hoping to populate with growing companies, but what really makes those companies be able to grow is the kind of programming that goes on inside it, whether that's connecting those new businesses or those entrepreneurs to other firms in the area. It's providing mentoring. It's providing the other kind of opportunities for businesses to interact with other businesses. It's the ability to test prototypes, whether it's in inside spaces where people can be walking by and actually see what's happening, or even being able to test things in the public realm. So, for example, if you're working on something that could actually improve the life of a city, new parking meters, for example, how can you actually use the city itself or the neighborhood itself as a test bed for those ideas? And how do you have kind of an open enough atmosphere to be able to do that so that people can actually understand, wow, there's really interesting things happening here, and I can actually see it happen in real time. You also need just the informal spaces, the coffee shops and restaurants and other things where people can get together informally, again, without necessarily having to get in their car and drive 2 miles to do it, but where they can walk down the street and bump into other people in their own business or even outside of it to be able to have that kind of exchange of ideas and information. And as I said before, it's the kind of range of activities, even social activities in the public spaces that help bring people together and that really make it a quality place where people want to be, where they want to work, where they may want to live, where they want to stay after hours, even if they don't live there, to be able to spend time. Next slide. So what I've tried to do is really frame here, what are the trends that are driving the innovation economy? What does it actually look like in a real place in terms of what you need, in terms of the assets and how they come together to really drive a strong and powerful and dynamic innovation ecosystem? So I want to sort of wrap up by just giving some ideas of, okay, well, where do you go from here? How do you actually make it happen? How does the private sector come together with the public sector and civic leadership to really create the kind of innovation ecosystem that's appropriate for your community? Next slide. So the first thing you really need to do is to what we refer to as auditing your district to determine your strengths and challenges. And this, at some level, seems pretty obvious, but yet it's remarkable how many places sort of dive in without doing a bit of the heavy lifting to really understand what your assets are in the economy. So we had done some work in Oklahoma City and in Philadelphia to really test this idea out. We had developed a template and a framework for, well, what do you want to know about your innovation ecosystem? What are the right questions to ask? How do you go about trying to answer them? And then we sort of tested these ideas out. We did some work over the course of about 18 months in the Philadelphia area and the University City district area. And in the health center area of Oklahoma City to really test this idea out. This just happens to be one graphic from Oklahoma City that focused on looking at employment by race and monthly wages. But really the framework is about understanding first, what is your innovation capacity? What is your capacity to innovate? What kind of assets do you have that can help fuel innovation? And what's missing in your ecosystem? Where are your gaps? You really want to focus on the place assets. What works? What doesn't? What's missing? How can you improve? You want to focus on diversity and inclusion. This is a really key part of an innovation ecosystem for a lot of different reasons. For one, we are rapidly becoming a minority-majority country. A lot of metros are already there. And so when we think about the innovation economy, it's awfully hard to see how we're going to be innovative if we don't have a diversity of ideas and perspectives in our innovation economy. At the same time, this doesn't seem to be as much of a challenge here, but certainly in many cities around the country and small towns, they're really struggling with a lot of issues around poverty and inequality. And so there's another imperative to really tap into that talent that's not being utilized as it could be, and really work to bring more people into the innovation ecosystem. So it's about your innovation capacity, it's about your place, it's about economic inclusion. And it's also auditing the networking assets and your leadership capacities to really understand, do you have the glue that can really keep all this together? So first step in the process, you can't know where you're going if you don't know where you are. So you really have to do the deep work to understand what your unique strengths are and what your challenges are, and then build strategies from that. Next slide. So once you've done that audit, it's about how do you use that information to really develop your game-changing strategies that are going to build the kind of vibrant and inclusive district that you want. So this is about leveraging the competitive advantages that you have, those kind of unique strengths that you can particularly leverage. So again, this isn't about saying, how can we be like some other place? It's saying, what are the assets we have in our economy, and how do we pull from those assets and really build on them? In Chattanooga, this is just one example. Chattanooga had spent a long time over the course of really a few decades investing in place, particularly in their downtown and riverfront. And from there, they were actually able to leverage placemaking overlaid with something that they have that most other places don't, which is the gig. They have very high-powered internet that's provided by a public utility. Not many places in the country can say that. And so it gave them an opportunity to say, we've got something unique here. We've invested in place, that's a good thing. Now we've got this major economic and innovation asset. How can we look more deeply about how we leverage that? And they've been investing over the last couple of years in their downtown and in building their innovation economy downtown. They don't have a major anchor institution in their downtown area, but they do have this. And so they're working to figure out how they can capitalize on that, and have been. Next slide. Game-changing strategies include creating the kind of spaces that support innovation and entrepreneurship. I referenced this earlier. This just happens to be an example from Durham, North Carolina, that has the American Underground, where they got ahead of the curve. They had, in terms of these kind of spaces, they had a lot of old tobacco warehouses that were not being utilized anymore as the tobacco industry changed. And they started to repurpose them in new ways to really focus on how do they build entrepreneurship in their community. And in their case, too, they're focused heavily on how do they do that in ways that are diverse and inclusive of their population. Next slide. Game-changing strategies include intentionally linking residents and businesses to the economy. So on one hand of the economic development equation, we focus on growth, right? We focus on job growth. We focus on productivity growth. We want to see those numbers go up. But we also know that that doesn't necessarily mean that all residents are able to participate in that growth. And you can certainly see it in places around the country where residents aren't being able to link to the growth that's happening. And so what we know is it doesn't necessarily trickle down in the ways that we might want it to. Growth is essential if you want to build an inclusive economy. It's a prerequisite, but it's not enough. You need to take it a step further to say, how are we going to intentionally link residents and businesses to our economy? Certainly the workforce efforts that were discussed here tonight are trying to do exactly that. They're doing the kind of outreach that you need to do in this community and in other communities to be able to pull people into that economy. This happens to be an example from Baltimore, where I happen to live. The University of Maryland has a biopark, focused on life sciences that they've developed around their hospital and their professional schools. But what's sort of interesting is they've made an intentional effort to actually link residents to that growth. So they've moved a part of the Baltimore City Community College into the biopark and are actually now training residents, or training some of these students in life sciences so that they can get an internship by going up an elevator rather than across town. Next slide. And then finally, last slide, it's really about investing in the placemaking. that really engages the community and really catalyzes economic revitalization in all the ways that we've discussed. This happens to be an example from York, PA, where I'm from, that's really invested in the arts, for example, as a way to help reinvigorate a part of their downtown. Next slide. So, auditing your assets, developing game-changing strategies, and last but not least, is pulling it all together to really organize stakeholders to drive the vision and to drive the strategies. You can have the best strategies in the world, but if you're not organized for success, if you don't have the leadership and the group of stakeholders galvanized to actually drive that vision and to keep it over time, you won't ultimately be successful. We've seen it happen in St. Louis in the Cortex District. I know some of you have been able to visit that. Where they've made an intentional effort around driving their innovation economy through concerted vision, stakeholder engagement of multiple institutions, and financing it over time. So I'm eager to hear more about the vision and some of the strategies that you are thinking about here in Sheboygan, and we'll certainly look forward to following them in the years to come. Thank you.
Sheboygan North Drumline. Jennifer Vey, you've got a heck of a resume. I mean, it is impressive, and you've probably been to a few EDC meetings. You've been to one like this before? I'm taking that as a good thing. Thank you, Sheboygan North Drumline. I can hear them all the way to Elkhart Lake when they're practicing. Sarah asked me to pass along to all of you that there's some gifts on the table for you. Jim Chisholm of Apollo Popcorn and also Grant Pauly of Three Sheeps Brewery have those gifts for you to take. Although I did hear a couple pops during Jennifer's presentation, so that's fine too. You might pop during mine too. Oh, and of course from Olivu. Caitlin Bratz from Olivu. Okay, let's go. As Dane pointed out, and I'm going to try to speed up for all of you. You get the bottom line. Please change the slide. You get the bottom line of what we do. Change slide. Here's a few examples. HSA Bank, they just wanted a monument sign. So in my role as business development here, I've been in over 150 companies here in Sheboygan County in the last few years. And some of them, we've been into them several times, trying to engage what the challenges are to business and removing the impediments. So as I said, HSA Bank, they needed a monument sign. Certainty needed some workforce. They make ceiling tiles over in Plymouth. And of course, this photograph of Masters Gallery was taken on Tuesday. They needed to grow. and they needed to grow either within the county or outside the state. They were looking at Colorado and Texas, and I'm thrilled to say Masters Gallery is 100% Sheboygan County. Thank you, Masters Gallery. Change the slide. Change, please. I got to tell you this story because otherwise the rest of it won't make any sense. And I'm going to brag on my wife a little bit, and she's not even here to hear me do it. So maybe there's karma with that. But I was looking for a way to connect with everybody about the problem and the challenge that we're really encountering constantly that we haven't solved yet. She sent me a 3.5-minute video, and it's called Know Your Why. Has anybody ever seen that, Know Your Why? It's the first time I saw it. Quickly, this gentleman sings the song Amazing Grace, and he sings it beautifully. And then the person that's the moderator, you can't see in the shot, goes through some things that this person may have had in his life, family, that sort of thing, those 1,000 cuts that we go through in business, those real burdens, those things that keep us awake. He's saying Amazing Grace again. I promise you I won't sing. Is Stefano here? He can sing. But he sang it again like God was coming absolutely through his instrument. And that why, knowing your why, is what we keep hearing time and time again with business. Is it attracting skilled workforce and retaining skilled workforce? It's the why. And we're competing with the world. Companies are forced to compromise. Shorten work days, work weeks, change it please. You know, maybe work from Milwaukee, set up set up R&D down in Chicago, those sorts of things, all kinds of compromises. But with the great culture we have with Sheboygan County companies, that why is really, really stressing our development. It's a crapshoot of win-loss, maybe not win as much as you otherwise could. Today's skilled workforce, as Jennifer outlined, they want live, work, play. They want proximity. Think of the investment that you're making in workforce. Attraction. Some you win, some you lose. Change it, please. Some of you gain a few years, and then you lose them in a year or two. And the money that you invest in doing that. I've heard people tell me, employed in HR in Sheboygan County, you can't attract workforce here. It's the why. Many of your companies are magnets to talent, but the area lacks some of the amenities that today and the future workforce expect and, in fact, demand. I'll tell you a quick story. We engaged a lot of skilled workforce as we've been scoping this project. And one young person we met came here a few years ago. He was from the Eastern Time Zone. He's got a master's from Virginia Tech, bright guy. And he's been here about 3 years. No apartments available when he got here, so he's got a crappy apartment, still has it. I should say a less than satisfactory apartment. I know when I got here 3+ years ago, we had to settle. But the bottom line is those problems are being solved. He spends every weekend, Friday night, he heads down to Milwaukee, sleeps out at a friend's place, comes back on Sunday night because there's a makerspace down there. And this is happening time and time again. And the fact is, we're probably going to lose them. The investment that company made, that great Sheboygan County company made to get him here, we're probably going to lose that because we don't have some of the amenities that the workforce are expecting. The challenge is we have some of what they want, but we're missing some other things. And it feels like, I got to tell you this, an older coworker of this young man told him, look, here's the secret to surviving in Sheboygan County. Get married, have some babies, settle down and enjoy your life. And I'm here to tell you that's not the answer to those cohorts coming up. And it also feels to me like suggesting procreation might be a trip to the HR office if we're not careful. So we need to solve the amenities that we don't have and then sell our assets to the world. Much of what we have, what Jennifer described, is already here. And Chad Pelishek, the City of Sheboygan's Director of Planning, is here to outline some of those assets, some of what those assets are, and where we might grow to achieve your why. Chad?
Thank you, Jim. The Innovation Community, Indiana Avenue Corridor, was chosen as the innovation community for Sheboygan County because of its prime urban core. As you leave here tonight, you will see the start of the innovation community with the demolition of blighted properties along the corridor. It is in close proximity to the downtown, Lakefront, and South Pier. We heard the call for additional multifamily housing, especially in our downtown, and we delivered. We have two completed projects. We have the Encore Apartments on North 8th Street and the Portscape Apartments in the South Pier District. The High Point Apartments are under construction, which we are really excited about. With its outstanding architecture, it could be at home in any major metropolitan area. All these developments have what we hear is important for the new wave of workforce: walkability, access to restaurants, and nightlife, outdoor and recreational amenities. We have done well developing luxury apartment units, but also wanted to focus on affordable housing. A new housing development in this building will be an investment of about $20 million, located in the heart of the innovation community, and will offer affordable units to the new workforce, bringing fresh talent to our county. Part of what will make the innovation community thrive in Sheboygan is our urban lifestyle. We have a legacy of supporting projects that allow public access to the waterfront. Feedback from every community survey tells us our waterfront is our #1 asset. Our urban lifestyle offers walkability, and Sheboygan has been voted the top 10 walkable neighborhoods in the Midwest. Only one of 40 runner-friendly communities in the nation, and one of 17 bicycle-friendly communities in Wisconsin. We are the only U.S. sailing center on the Great Lakes, and enthusiasts seek us out from far and wide for our active recreation like sailing, surfing, kayaking, paddleboarding, to name a few. You do not have a thriving urban environment without urban amenities. We learned that world-class amenities draw world-class talent. Sheboygan Squared is committed to advancing the arts and culture district in downtown. We have leveraged our world-class John Michael Kohler Arts Center and our Stephanie Weil Center for the Performing Arts to bring thousands of people downtown. Restaurants are an important urban amenity. Yes, we have bratwurst. We love it. We do it well, but we have more. We provide some of Wisconsin's best restaurants, and they are a huge draw to our urban core. Sheboygan is already making headway in innovation. Co-working is a style of work that involves a shared working environment. We already offer co-working spaces like Jake's Cafe. Jake's Cafe has been offering co-working spaces and developed a proven model for many years. We have the EBCO Artworks building located on Erie Avenue that houses spaces for the artist community. And at 1234 Kentucky Avenue, a building that everybody would notice as the Wisconsin Woodcraft Building, we're excited to announce that this building located in our innovation community will be our newest addition of co-working space and is one of the first developments in advancing our vision. I would like to introduce you to the innovation community along Indiana Avenue. Partnerships will be the key to success of this innovation community. In advancing the partnership, the city has invested in waterfront real estate and is committed to advancing the vision. I would like to leave you with this quote: "Forget a relationship, make it a partnership, and build an empire." Thank you.
Thank you, my friend. As you can see, we have tremendous foundational assets to grow the ecosystem needed to achieve your why, attracting and retaining skilled workforce. The why in Sheboygan County is brain drain. For our purposes, this is loss of skilled people. Can you switch over to the map, the blue and that's the one. For our purposes here, red is bad, blue is good. You can see people are moving to the coast, they're moving to the southeast. Sheboygan County's pink. It's not good. We've got to solve it. Change, please. Recently, the WDC did a survey. What is Wisconsin really known for? Not surprisingly, beer, cheese, Packers, and cold. I'm not going to apologize for the fact that we kick butt on food and beverage. We do. But I take exception to the climate thing. Look, when it comes to climate, there's no utopia. People aren't leaving Sheboygan County for Milwaukee and Chicago because of climate. They're seeking innovation. Yet, we have some of the greatest and most innovative companies right here in Sheboygan County. Boston has more snow, so don't give me the cold thing again, but Boston has innovation. Seattle or San Francisco have nowhere near the sunny days they have in Sheboygan County. They've got innovation. You think people are trying to get to the Bay Area to pay for a $2,500 efficiency because of the climate? Fewer sunny days in the Bay Area, I'm here to tell you. Is the next earthquake going to be the next one? Look, there's no utopia. People are seeking innovation, and most of Sheboygan County companies have it. But we need a hub, and we need a world-class marketing campaign to demonstrate that hub to the world. Seattle's always been a talent magnet, right? Am I right? Seattle's always been just rock and roll, absolutely strong. Now, this is a billboard from 1972. These two guys are realtors. Boeing, which was totally based there at one time, had over 100,000 employees in 1968. By 1972, they had declined by almost over 60,000 to fewer than 40,000 employees. You couldn't sell a home in Seattle. Now, I worked for a broadcasting company for my broadcasting career called GoCom, and when they transferred me to Seattle in 1990, I'm here to tell you, it all turned out fine for them. Bill Gates and others capitalized on software. Some youper named Schultz, just a couple years before I got there, flew over Wisconsin and ended up in Seattle and started a company you may have heard called Starbucks. Amazon, when I got there in 1990, was a river and a company that sold books. Now you say, what are books? What is Amazon today? Innovation breeds innovation. And as Chad demonstrated, much of the table is already set. Sheboygan County companies made this happen. Lowest poverty rate in the nation, and that's because of the jobs and the quality that we have here, the organizations that make this happen. Yes. Lyndon Johnson, wherever you are. The war on poverty is being won here in Sheboygan County, and we are the MSA closest to eradicating it in the entire nation. And that's a big deal when you're looking to attract workforce. They want to be around positive environment. Now, as I'm closing here, I want to reflect back to something that Ralph Stayers said on that stage over at the Osthoff last year. And it was before he did the yodeling Lambo thing. They cut to the chase. What he said, you know, a friend of his had said, what if every Sheboygan County operated the Johnsonville way? It's a very, very idealistic thing to say. But you know, we're not lacking great corporate culture here. Sargento, amazing. The innovation of Rockline, Kohler's creative culture is phenomenal. The day that I went to Masters Gallery to first meet with them when they needed to expand and they had to consider all options at that point, including out of state, I got their corporate headquarters, those beautiful headquarters on the Mullet River there. They were all putting on these red noses, and they were doing something as a group, the corporation, and you could see the affection that they have for each other and the kind of cultures there. You can't move that to Texas. I wouldn't want you to try. You know, you think about the plastics with Bemis and Plenko with their exceptionalism in plastics. Acuity. Sheboygan County's Acuity is renowned as one of the very best employers in the entire nation to work for. My son said to me yesterday, he said, Dad, to even get an interview there is a big deal. That's something that we have here in Sheboygan County. Now that's just to name a few, but we have to solve the why: attraction, retention. Look, nobody's saying, if you're not in Sheboygan, move to Sheboygan. That's not what this is. Sargento has incredible R&D in Elkhart Lake. Plant those roots deeper, Sargento. Johnsonville's building this immaculate headquarters in Johnsonville. With this innovation district, you can plant your roots deeper in Johnsonville, but create an environment, an attractive place to help bring some of your folks to and commingle with other talented and educated folks along in proximity with folks that they enjoy working with. Does it work? Well, let me tell you something. Boeing has some of the greatest R&D on earth. Boeing has plants all over the country, but Boeing is a corner tenant in Cortex in St. Louis. We saw it, and they're champions of innovation. Look, achieving this vision will allow your skilled workers to rub elbows with other skilled workers and solve the why. It's not build it and they will come. That's not what we're saying here. This is working with you individually as companies to develop a talent magnet for you to attract and retain talent, not let go of what you currently have. Can you imagine what this can mean for our institutions of higher learning, for them attracting new students to this area? This can be a magnet for those institutions. Naturally, many of those students are going to become your skilled workforce. Heck, some might even procreate. Now, I've got a few questions to wrap up. And if you have to answer yes to this, please stand and remain standing. Are you an owner of a company or an employee of a company that is, or know of a company that is having a challenge attracting and retaining all the talent that's needed? Please stand. Are you an elected official that would like to see the development of talent magnets to support your local companies? Please stand and remain standing. Are you a member of a lending institution that would like to see the attraction of new workforce and the development of companies that support existing companies? Please stand. Do you want to reverse the local population decline, the brain drain, and ensure the sustainability of Sheboygan County? Then please stand. Okay. SCEDC hears you. We hear your why. Thank you. Please be seated.
Amen. Time is well spent, and I'm going to give you back as much of your time as I possibly can. But right now, do me a favor. Let's give the SCD, Sheboygan County Economic Development Corporation, a round of applause. I have one more person to bring to you tonight, but before I do that, I just need to thank a couple people who came out with me tonight. On behalf of Senator Ron Johnson and his staff, we've got Scott Bolstad and Orlando Owens. Help me celebrate them. Amen. We've got Constance Albert and Mario Albert. Help me celebrate them. Sheboygan County is near and dear to the Joseph Project. Currently, we have about a 62% retention ratio. On Monday morning, this Monday morning, our number 200, our number 201, and our number 202 person will start work right here in Sheboygan County. We could not do that without you. Give yourselves a real hand. So without further ado, I want to bring to you Mark Cassidy, Chief Operation Officer of American Orthodontics and next year's Chairman of the Sheboygan County Economic Development Corporation Board of Directors. Say amen for him.
I'd like to thank the pastor, our speakers, our guests, and our Economic Driver of the Year for your passion in making Sheboygan County someplace better. A few months ago, Dave Aldag approached me and asked if I would be interested and willing to be the next chair of the SCEDC, and for me, it was an easy decision. I have lived in 4 countries and 5 states, and because of those points of comparison, when I moved here with my family in 2006, I knew right away that we had found someplace better. And in fact, even my daughter, who was 5 years old at the time, immediately gave the county her seal of approval. And I'll never forget what she said to me on day 2 of the move to the county. We had moved just directly from Paris, France, a city of 2 million people and literally 500,000 pet dogs. So this was her frame of reference when she said to me quite enthusiastically, she said, "Dad, I really like it here." So, of course, at that point, I'm happy that she's happy, so I asked, "Why is that?" And my precious 5-year-old daughter looks up at me like I am an idiot. She's 17 years old now, so rest assured I am quite accustomed to the "Dad, you're an idiot" look. But it was quite cute when she was 5 years old, so I persisted and I asked again. I said, "Why do you like it here?" And she said matter-of-factly, "Because there's not dog poop all over the sidewalks." There I was thinking, great schools, great companies, wonderful neighborhoods, nice people, but lo and behold, the appeal of the new place was in fact the lack of dog poop. So this was through the eyes of the 5-year-old, but as a family unit, we all soon realized that Sheboygan County is truly a fantastic place to live, work, and play. We plan to be lifelong residents, and I'm passionate about doing whatever I can to help keep this someplace better. Additionally, it was an easy decision because Dave Aldag committed to remain involved with the organization to ensure a smooth transition and be a resource for us. I've got a ton of respect for Dave, and Dave, at this point, I'd ask you to please join me on stage, if you would, as I say a few words about your tenure. So, yeah. So under Dave's leadership, the SCEDC has developed a laser-like focus on workforce development. It has a solid partnership in place with the Chamber on the Someplace Better campaign. It has a robust program supporting entrepreneurship, and through its focus on housing, there's now room for 1,000 more employees and their families in the county. Because of the progress under Dave's leadership, private and public support has grown. The number of investors is now over 100 organizations. So would you please join me in thanking Dave for his service and for his leadership?
Thank you. It's very nice comments, but it's been a privilege to serve as the SCDC chair for the past 4 years. The secret is I've had the opportunity to work with a very talented and driven staff, as well as our executive committee, board of directors. Collectively, we've been able to accomplish every goal that we've set, while we provided value to our investors as well as the businesses and residents of our county. From our original goal of retaining and attracting business to our area, to attracting the workforce to fill positions, and then providing the housing to keep these people in Sheboygan County, thereby reinvesting their paychecks into the community, we've delivered. We now look to our next goal, which is the innovation community. This was researched by our team. We feel this endeavor will leave a long-term impact on our community and provide economic benefits for decades to come. Starting tomorrow morning, we'll begin turning this vision into reality using your input and suggestions as we have with our past goals and initiatives. The goal will take years to achieve, but the results will be worth the time, effort, and investment. Our organization is excited for the opportunity this will bring to our community. The SCEDC will deliver on this goal, as we have with our past goals. And we are confident that under Mark's leadership, we'll continue our success moving forward. thank you for the opportunity to serve this organization. I'm humbled to have played a part in our mission and vision for Sheboygan County.
Thank you so much, Dave. So tonight you've heard where we're going and what we need to do to stay relevant. We are going to continue to offer our core services with the help of our partners in the areas of non-traditional finance, site selection assistance, workforce development, and entrepreneurship support. Additionally, we will embark on a bold venture to develop an innovative and entrepreneurial ecosystem that will ensure sustainable talent attraction and retention. We're committed to accomplishing this mission, and with your financial support, Sheboygan County will get there sooner. On behalf of the Board of Directors, I would like to thank our investors. We truly appreciate you. And while you may not always receive direct benefits, you share a common belief that as Sheboygan County's economy improves, so will your business and so will your community. Of course, any new investors are welcome, and any modest increase in investment from current investors is always appreciated. With that, tonight's program is concluded. Thank you for your time and attention. Please drive safe and have a good night.